Hello everybody, in case you didn't know, I'm Jonathan, also known as the PC Genie, and today we're going to look at an interesting topic I don't normally cover, but I thought might as well try to research and give an outsider's perspective, but as thoroughly researched as possible, into the furry subculture. So I'm not biased, I'm not the sort of person who's part of it, so yeah, great, brilliant, sign up, yes. Or one of the other side who'd say, evil, devil spawned, Satan incarnated, etc, etc. I thought, let's try. I know it's going to be difficult when anyone makes an attempt at journalism, especially an amateur like me, but try to see if we can try to find the truth about the furry fandom. Now, for starters, one of the most curious things you have to consider is the historical precedent and how things have suddenly blown up now. I mean, think about it for a moment. We have the ancient deities, so you have anthropomorphism such as Anubis and Ra. They've got sort of human-styled bodies, but the head of an eagle or a dog or those types of things. And mythology, you have lycanthropy and werewolves, you know, a man wolf, bearing in mind, I think were's Anglo-Saxon for man. So you've got those types of fables and bits of fiction and fairy tales where you have people becoming animals, animals becoming people, and people having sort of permanent animal qualities. But yet, only recently, in the past, what, maybe since 1980 or something like that, as far as I can tell, it just gradually expanded and expanded with this whole furry subculture where now everyone's basically dressing up like a mascot. So, of course, the question is, why? And why do they do it? So, that's what I'll look into now. Now, from what I've seen, although anthropomorphism has been quite common throughout history, I think one of the key reasons for it sort of exploding as a fan base is probably to do with recent developments in technology. By that I mean in the past 100 years or so. Previously it had to be restricted to things like maybe some books with pictures in them, or things like, as I say, ancient deities and those sorts of pictures. However, more recently we see organisations such as Walt Disney and Pixar Studios and other places who are able to quite literally bring it all alive in front of you with a much more easy sort of visual media. Because of course, there are people with great imaginations to sort of think about these things, but when you can actually see it in front of your face, such as, for example, with Bugs Bunny, the characters in Zootopia, the old Robin Hood, Jungle Book, all of those things, you can see anthropomorphic characters pretty much in person speaking. Now, one can hardly talk about furries without talking about their artwork, and there's plenty of it. Admittedly, the species and their variations don't seem to vary as much as I thought they would. It's mostly restricted to things like wolves, cats, dogs, maybe the occasional horse or dragon or something, but the other areas and aspects, such as the activities, the styles, and all of that, have extreme variation. Basically like, well, actual, you know, museum-type art. You know, the actual artworks people tend to think of more commonly. So that suggests to me that it's certainly not what people say about furries a vocal minority. It certainly seems a lot more widespread than that. I have to admit, there are some odd things about there, like, for example, who on earth could relate to a pirate with fur on them? Oh wait. One of the things that I've noticed is there's a strong degree of community within the furry fanbase. I'd say it's a bit relatable to myself. I, for example, am a historical European martial artist, as many of you will know, and I'm interested in things like historical combat, knights in shining armour, medieval warfare, that sort of thing. So you find like-minded people and start to group together. And it seems that the furry fanbase essentially just cropped out of like-minded people coming together about anthropomorphism and such things. And of course, sharing their experiences, artwork and other things with each other, pretty much like typical human interaction. Now, one of the things that has been a problem, admittedly, when trying to look into such people, is the negative stereotypes and interpretations given to them. So, of course, there are the true aspects, so there are such things as what is called YIF, which is sexual intercourse and pornography and other such aspects of a style that is compatible for the furry fandom and is itself a furry type of style, but in the sense it has been exaggerated. One instance of, well, very infamous instance of where this was the case was actually in a CSI crime scene investigation episode. The episode was titled Fur and Loathing, and it was the usual kind of scenario, dead body, forensic investigation and stuff done, but of course as they're doing the usual type of police work, there's a lot of furry stereotypes that cropped up and unfortunately started to cement in the minds of typical people. I'll give you a little few clips here just to start to demonstrate what I'm talking about here.
It must be food poisoning.
This isn't a costume, it's a 6-foot condom.
Now this scares me.
We gather here to embrace our inner animal.
I'm with the crime lab.
My friends call me sexy.
Whoa.
Well, I like hairy chests, but I'm not about to bop a 6-foot weasel. I mean, whatever happened to normal sex?
He's a raccoon. They're all lowlifes. I mean, honestly, what do? Screw? Eat garbage? Screw some more?
Now, on a more negative note, unfortunately, I mean, there are, well, quite a few disturbing scenarios that seem to crop up out of this, and by that I mean, for example, there was, at one particular furry convention, there was a gas attack, a chemical attack, basically, and it was there to obviously intend to seriously injure or kill the people in the convention. Luckily, none of them died, and they were hospitalised, and I think all of them managed to recover, but someone reporting on this in the news laughed at it. That's a bit disturbing. And then, here's just one example. This is from a YouTube comment on the I Hate Everything video, I Hate Furries, and he just kind of, admittedly it wasn't that bad, he was sort of saying a few negative things, but it wasn't anything that was downright nasty anyway. But you see in the comment it says, I saw some fursuiters at the park and I beat one of them with a lacrosse stick. And it turns out he went to my school and he kind of laid off being a furry. Well, let me advise of my reaction to that. There's going to be a curse word in 3, 2, 1. What the fuck? That's assault. That's like saying, that's the equivalent of saying, you know, oh, that's a weird little hobby you've got there, I'll just physically assault you. When did that become acceptable? I mean, any of you watching now, think of a hobby you've got. Let's say it could be as simple as stamp collecting, maybe, same as me, you like historical European martial arts, maybe you like fixing old motorbikes. Whatever your taste, whatever your hobby is, and it's not something that harms people, you're not, you know, doing ritual human sacrifice or anything nasty like that, but then someone one day goes up to you and says, I don't like your hobby, I am now going to hit you repeatedly with a weapon. Am I the only person who thinks that is downright awful? Literally appalling behaviour. Now this is what I mean. I mean, you've got stereotypes and such things, they're pretty much unavoidable about anything. everyone's going to get stereotyped as something to caricature and simplify what a hobby or a group of people or subculture are like, but it's never any excuse for causing injury or killing them. Same as it's completely unacceptable for people like Adolf Hitler to kill people for being Jewish. We know that. How do people not then know that assaulting people based on being a furry is unacceptable? This is a key problem. If I was to give a conclusion here, basically, I mean, let's be honest now, it's pretty much a live and let live type of attitude, I'd say. I mean, obviously there are things like, I've mentioned the yith and things like that, which are, well, potentially harmful in the furry community, but when you compare it to most other activities, when you look at things like football, rugby, things like historical research or other areas where people gain hobbies, it's not really significantly worse or better. It's just the way things are. You get creeps and people like that in every fan culture or even non-fan culture, and yeah, I mean, in terms of the actual distinct furry traits, you know, making the artwork and going about in costume, it's not harming anyone, is it? I mean, you know, like I say, there are much worse things in the world than people who like anthropomorphism. So, tell me in the comments, what are your experiences of the fandom? How are things, you know, are you a furry yourself? Please do feel free to tell me in the comments. I'd be fascinated to know what it's been like for you. And hope to see you in the next video.